Man has been fishing these waters for thousands of years. But we aren't the only fish killers in the North Atlantic. The capelin is the favorite food of the humpback and the minke and fin whales. It's these tasty little fish that tempt the whales in close to shore in spring and summer. But the capelin is the main attraction for another group of fishermen too, the seabirds. They flock to our shores by the millions during the capelin scull, and it's no coincidence that they've chosen this time and place to hatch and raise their young. The capelin is a rich and abundant source of food for the ever-hungry chicks. And our cliffs and islands ideal nurseries. And so each year, literally millions of seabirds flock to the Funks, the Witless Bay Islands, and Cape St. Mary's. The bird sanctuary at Cape St. Mary's. In the spring and summer, this towering chimney of rock is covered with gannets, an incredible sight to the thousands of naturalists who flock here each year. It's the job of Holly Hogan to show them around.
Well, there's people from all over Canada and the United States, and especially we seem to get a lot of Americans, and especially from the New England states. And Newfoundlanders too, which is good to see because people always have a tendency to go elsewhere to experience new things, and it's nice when people can experience their own province, you know.
Have you met anybody who's disappointed with what they've seen?
Never. No matter what the weather's been like. And it's been pretty bad sometimes too.
So people come out even when it's foggy?
Foggy and raining and windy, and they still say it's worth it.
And some of these people have seen spectacular sights all over the world, haven't they?
Oh yeah, well we get a lot of naturalists and bird watchers who spend their lives traveling, and they just say it's equal to or better than anything they've seen.
Tell me a bit about the birds now. I guess it's mainly gannets we see around us, but what other birds are there here?
Well, the most conspicuous ones are the gannets, and there's about 11,000 gannets here. And then there's about 21,000 murres and kittiwakes, and those are the three largest numbers of breeders here. And there's also some guillemots and razorbills.
But it's mainly known as a gannetry, as a breeding
yeah,
ground
well,
for
that's
gannets.
yeah. People seem to be most impressed by the gannets, and it is the second largest colony in North America, so it is substantial. Whereas it's not, as far as kittiwakes and murres go, it's not a real significant colony in terms of numbers.
Tell me a bit about the gannet now. It's quite a big bird, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
and the young are just starting to come out now, I believe.
Yeah, just this week the young have started to hatch out, and so the two adults, they'll share the parent care for the next 13 weeks, and then the chicks will be ready to leave. And they'll leave on their own without the parents' help. The gannets, they're called plunge divers. They'll drop out of the sky like from 30 feet or more and just drop right on a fish and then bounce back up and have it in the back of their throats.
The beauty of Cape St. Mary's Gannet Nursery is that visitors can get such an excellent view from the cliff nearby. Even without binoculars and telephoto lens, the sight is spectacular. There are only 5 places in North America where gannets breed, and most of these are inaccessible to the public. The cliff top here at the Cape is an ideal viewing platform. A good place for this American professor to try out his newly developed binoculars.
But it has everything they've got: the same power, same field of view, same brightness, all in a 3-ounce package with 14 lenses and 8 mirrors. But 4 of the lenses are rare earth glass. No other binocular has that, very few camera lenses. So in order to get it so short and small, that you need. See, that's all there is to it.
Wow. And what was it like out there when you looked at the birds through it?
One of the thrills of my life, because, you know, you're out in the midst of them, you really have given yourself 700% better eyesight.
And it's quite
because,
a sight.
Because you know you can look under them to catch the whole picture, and then you want to look at the details, you just bend your head down, you're seeing the whole thing.
So, well, were you impressed with the gannetry?
Well, I think it's one of the best bird spectacles in the world. And I've seen the flamingos on Lake Naivasha in Africa, and all of the great sights. This is very special.
A very special place indeed, this bird rock at Cape St. Mary's. Holly Hogan has watched the numbers of visitors to the Cape grow each year.
In previous years, in July, the average was, I think, about 40, 45 people a day. And now that the Placentia Bay coast is paved, the tourism has increased a lot over the last 2 years.
So now all summer you'll be here, or you and the other people, taking people out and explaining about the birds.
Yes, that's right.
It's quite a job.
Oh, that's a great job.
After the crowds had left, I lingered for a while there at Cape St. Mary's. It's really something to stand there at the top of the cliff, with the ocean rippling and swirling hundreds of feet below, and the air filled with gannets' wings and gannets' voices. This is a special place, this Cape St. Mary's. Of the other seabird colonies in Newfoundland, the islands off Witless Bay on the southern shore are the best known and the most accessible. Green Island is the smallest, but it has the greatest concentration of birds, mostly turs and ticolaces. Great Island is the largest. It's honeycombed with puffin burrows. We had to get special permission to land here on Gull Island, the most northerly of the 3. It didn't take us long, though, to figure out why it's called Gull Island. Dennis Minty, who's in charge of the province's bird sanctuaries, was our guide. He carefully escorted us through the breeding grounds of puffin, petrel, tur, ticolace, and the bigger, bolder gulls.
Well, Dennis, this is an incredible sight, isn't it?
Just incredible, yeah. It's one of the most magnificent places, I think, in all of the world, these islands out here.
And mostly we see gulls here, herring gulls, I believe, but there's more than that around us.
Yeah, that's right. We're in the herring gull nesting area right now, right up on these flat grassy slopes, but the rocks out to along the cliff edges there, that's where the turs and the kittiwakes are nesting. And in the grassy slopes are mainly the puffin burrows.
The gulls are really making a lot of noise now. They're getting excited down there. What, is it because we're here, maybe?
I think it's mostly us, yes. And it's important for us not to stay in any one spot for terribly long, because these birds are all tending their young and so on.
Most of the young gulls are out now, hatched out, I think.
Yeah, just about all of them are out. They're a couple of weeks old now. They're quite hardy, so although the mothers are kicking up quite a fuss, and the fathers, we're not really causing any hardship here to the chicks because they're really well along now in their development.
And is that why you don't mind sitting down here? There are no burrows under us?
That's right, yeah. The gulls, of course, don't nest in burrows. They nest right up on these flat grassy slopes. But out on where the land tips away, that's where the puffins are, and that's where we have to be really careful when we're walking, because If you're not careful, you could walk right through a puffin burrow. There's about 2.5 million seabirds, and if you include the petrels, it ups it to 3.5 million seabirds in these 3 islands. It's one of the greatest, well, it is the biggest concentration of seabirds in all of the east coast of North America. We're here in a little wooded glade of the island now, Dave, and it doesn't look like this is very important to any seabirds, but this is riddled again with petrel burrows. The birds choose places to nest in a very organized way. The petrels are all in this wooded kind of part of the island, and the other birds, which we'll see later, are all out in other locations. But it's really well organized. Not that they think about this, but it's just the way of nature's way.
And you don't see them in the daytime at all?
You don't see them in the daytime at all, no. This place is just riddled with burrows, but they're in there all day long. One is, and then at night they exchange and another one comes in. They stay on their eggs until the young is hatched, and then the young stays in that burrow until it's ready to come out again. There it is. Now that's the Leach's petrel, Leach's storm petrel. They're called the Mother Carey's chick here. Newfoundlanders call them. Seamen know them really well as a early storm warning device. When you get a lot of Mother Carey's chicks in on the water, in close to land, it's usually a sign that a storm is coming. Can you see its beak there, how it's got a bump on the beak? It's called a tube-nosed seabird. This bird spends all day in his burrow. One of them does, and the other one is off foraging at sea, far out to sea. And then at nighttime, this island is just alive with the sounds of these birds coming back and forth. And if you came outside here and stood up, they'd be bumping into you. There's that many of them on the go. They make the sound almost like Woody the Woodpecker when they're flying around. And it feeds far out to sea on small zooplankton, animal life that floats on the surface. You can see the webbed feet. Very delicate flyer, long wings. This is the most numerous bird out here. I'm going to let it go again now. There he goes. There's over 1 million of those birds nesting here on Gull Island. It's the second largest petrel colony, Leach's petrel colony in the world. And all over here, you can't see it from a distance, but this place is just honeycombed with petrel burrows.
Dennis, this is a different part of the island. It's a little hollow here. The trees are really in bad shape, aren't they?
Yeah, it was wooded much more than it is now, but you can see all these trees now are all denuded of their needles, and it's mainly because of that fellow right up there, the herring gull. The numbers of gulls are increasing a lot in this area, and they light in the trees and roost there a lot, and their droppings are slowly killing many of the trees in certain areas, not the whole island, just in some of the areas. These trees are well exposed. They're also very old. Some of them are just dying from old age, but the gulls help it along with their droppings.
What's the next step? The puffins or the
We'll go on out to the saddle now and have a look at the puffins.
Puffins are plump, comical birds with huge, brightly colored bills. They live in colonies, burrowing tunnels in the turf where they lay their eggs and raise their young. The puffin seems to spend a lot of time on the doorstep, gazing about and flapping its short, stubby wings. Deep inside these burrows are the young puffins. They'll stay there in the dark till they're ready to fly. Till then, it's a lazy life for the young, waiting for ma or pa to come home with a meal of fish. It may seem like one big happy family out here, but it isn't.
The gulls in particular are quite voracious predators on their own chicks at times, and also puffin chicks, and they'll take the scattered adult puffin as well. But the puffins, although the gulls do take some, the puffins that are in the best nest sites are the best off as far as avoiding gull predation and gull piracy. When I say gull piracy, I mean the gulls swooping in and taking the food from the adult puffin when it's bringing it into a chick.
Over the years, we've killed seabirds for food, for feathers, and for fuel, and even bait. Today, seabirds have another use, as the O'Brien boys of Bay Bulls discovered some years ago. They take people out to see the birds.
Ladies and gentlemen, on the cliffs is where you got the kittiwakes and the murres. And down close to the shore, you have the herring gulls and the black-backed gulls. And the puffins live on the grass, and they live in burrows that go into a depth of approximately 2.5 to 8 feet. And the reason why they come to those islands to nest is because of the texture of the soil, which allows them to easily dig in to make their burrows, and also because of the slope of the land. As you can see, the puffin is not a bird that can fly very well. He's a great swimmer, and so with the slope of the land, it allows him easily to take off, to fly in the air. He automatically becomes airborne. And the puffin can dive down to a depth of approximately 130 feet under the water, and he can swim about 8 miles an hour under the water.
That's very good.
Another boat from Bay Bulls on the way out to the Bird Islands, with yet another crowd of tourists. These are the Gatherall boys, with their paying passengers. A trip to the Bird Islands has become a pretty popular tourist attraction, as people come from all over, many with their kids, to see the islands and the birds that live on them. For those who've never seen turs, puffins, and tickleaces up close, it's an amazing spectacle.
Look at them up there. Right there. See all the little puffins up on that ridge? You see them, Matt?
So the puffins now are making their feeding trips back and forth to the young birds. So you're seeing they'll land, they go in, they land in the burrow, and then they turn around. They're not in there 2 seconds and they're gone again. They're saying that when the puffin brings back the capelin to the young bird in the nest, if it hesitates at the outside of the burrow, oftentimes the gull will just come over and snatch the food from it.
And so, the past few years, thousands of fascinated tourists and local people too have visited the birds of the Witless Bay Islands. You need a special permit from the Wildlife Division to land. They don't give them out often, and there's a very good reason for it. These birds came here in the first place to escape people. Too much disturbance, and they'll go. With eggs and chicks perched on narrow ledges, who wants a parade of curious and clumsy humans scrambling about the nursery? There in the distance, some razor-billed auks, or tinkers. They're relatives of the great auk that our ancestors wiped out years ago on the Funks. While on the island, we filmed a domestic quarrel between a tickleace and a tur. The tickleace didn't like the tur being so close to her egg. I guess competition can be fierce out here on the crowded ledges. Here in Newfoundland, we have our own names for most of the seabirds. The kittiwake is the tickleace, that's the small gull, while the murres are turs to most of us. They're the birds in the tuxedos.
These are the common murres. I'll use turs and murres interchangeably because Newfoundlanders know them as turs, whereas the correct name, the book name for them is murres. These murres here that nest here are not the same ones that are in our waters in the wintertime. The main ones that are hunted are the thick-billed murre, and they nest higher up in the Arctic. There are a few of them around here in the summertime, but most of them nest well up in the Arctic and come to our waters in the wintertime, whereas the birds that nest here forage further out to sea, and they're all out to sea during the wintertime.
I believe there's some concern about the number of turs we kill in the wintertime.
Yes, there is a growing concern about that. Right now there are no quotas on the numbers that are taken, and they estimate that as many as 400,000 to 500,000 are being harvested every year. And it's yet to be shown clearly whether or not that is holding the populations down or even reducing them, but the suspicions are that it may be. And the time is now that we have to start thinking about perhaps limiting at least the number that we're taking, more so than having it a free-for-all as it has been in the past. But Newfoundlanders will continue to be able to hunt turs, I think, a long time in the future if we manage them properly and if we're careful about it.
It's a question of numbers. If we don't keep our tur hunting within reasonable limits, the government will do it for us. It's as simple as that. But it's not just hunting that threatens our seabirds. Each year, oil spills kill many thousands, too. They say a small patch of oil the size of a quarter can kill a seabird. It's a precarious life out there, a struggle for survival against guns and pollutants, against other predaceous seabirds. Competition for space can be tough, too, and the fact that most are single-egg families doesn't help much either.
Most of these seabirds only lay one egg per year, and they're very, very slow to reproduce their own kind. They live a long time, though. Many of them, the murres, for instance, will live up to 30 years. The gannets will live as long as 50 years. But during that time, they only produce one young every year, and very few of those young actually survive to make it to be adults. In the case of many of these seabirds, for every 100 eggs that actually hatch out, about 40 of them will make it through their first year, and only about 5 of them will make it to be adults and be able to reproduce themselves.
What does it really mean to Newfoundland, and are these birds of any real value to us?
Oh, they're of tremendous value to us. This is of global significance, having these birds here. These 3 islands are the largest concentration of seabirds in all of North America. This is the 2nd largest petrel colony in the world. Green Island is the 2nd largest murre colony in the world. Great Island is the largest puffin colony in all of North America. People, I think, take for granted the presence of many of these seabirds and just don't recognize how special it is to have them here, and the combination of factors that bring them here.